Warning, the following video contains instances of extreme violence. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi guys, and many thanks for joining me. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Kat and I like to talk about true crime, conspiracies, investigations and all sorts of related things. Please don't forget, if you haven't done so already and if you are new here, to hit the big red subscribe button below and also make sure you hit the notification bell so you are the first one to know about any new videos I upload. For my returning subscribers and viewers, I would like to thank you all so much for all those lovely comments I always read from you and the continuous support you are showing me. This is what keeps me and my channel going. Thank you so much. I'm hoping you had a lovely and loving, with love is in the air, Valentine's Day. Today I want to talk to you about a really sad story, and this is the story of Junko Furuta. But guys, before we get started, I need to give you a warning. This video will contain explicit content, as in violent images, violent descriptions, so really explicit. If you guys are triggered by this kind of videos and images and photos, please don't watch this video. I will also give you another warning before I go into more detail in describing exactly what happened. However, throughout this whole video it will be explicit content, so if this is something which you don't enjoy watching, please, don't watch the video. Thank you so much. And before we get started with today's video, here is the disclaimer. I do not mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in today's video. The video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information I collect is from the internet. I compile this information, make a video, and from this you guys are more than welcome to draw your own conclusions. Thank you so much. High school is supposed to be the best time of your life. You meet new people, make lifetime friendships. Maybe high school is where you meet the love of your life. And the best thing, you excitedly look forward to prom and hearing the last bell. At least, that's how it's supposed to be, right? But for Junko Furuta, high school ended in the most horrendous way, when her life was taken away too soon. She never got to experience prom, and she never got to grow up and experience life, love, or even have a family. It was all taken away too soon from her. This is the story of the concrete-encased high school girl, Junko Furuta. And this is something out of horror movies. Junko was born on the 18th of January 1971. She was a beautiful 16-year-old Japanese young woman attending Yashio Minami High School in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, Japan. She worked part-time during after-school hours. She lived with her parents, her elder brother, and her younger brother. Prior to her abduction, she accepted a job at an electronics retailer, where she planned on working after graduation. Junko was a serious student in high school with high grades and barely any absences. She had been working part-time at a plastic molding factory twice a week since October 1988 to save up money for a graduation trip she had planned. She was a bubbly 16-year-old girl. She was good-looking, quite popular, and she did enjoy her popularity, but also she wasn't one to drink, use drugs, or smoke, and because of it, others were quite jealous of her. Not being gangster-like was not cool. One of the gangster-like teens, Hiroshi Miyano, had a crush on her, but Junko was not looking for a relationship, so she turned the boy down. And this is when things start to take a turn for the worst. Hiroshi was never denied anything. No one refused him, and this was mainly because, apart from being the bully in school, he was also affiliated with the young generation of Yakuza, and nobody dared to oppose him. So, how could Junko Furuta say no to him? This enraged Hiroshi. We have to remember Yakuza here, okay? Yakuza are Japanese gangsters, the Japanese mafia if you like. The word Yakuza in English means plain and simple gangster. This organization is recognized by the distinguished full-body tattoos all the members have and the yubitsume, which is the cutting of the finger ritual. The ritual is done to atone for offenses to another and also a sign of apology for any wrongdoings. The Yakuza have also allegedly helped their community when natural disasters struck, because they go by the motto that no one has to suffer. At least this was the purpose of the organization when it came to life more than 400 years ago. On November 25th, 1988, at around 8:30 in the evening, Junko is riding her bike home after finishing a shift at her workplace. Hiroshi Miyano and his friend Nobuharu Minato wander around Misato with the intention of robbing and raping local women. And they used to do that most of the times. And this is when they spot Junko. Under Hiroshi's orders, Nobuharu catches up with Junko, pushes her off the bike, she falls on the ground, and he flees the scene. But then, Hiroshi, after pretending he witnessed the attack, offers to get Junko home safely. So she agrees. Of course, she knows him from school, so she trusts him and accepts his offer. She remains unaware that Hiroshi is leading her to a nearby warehouse where he mentions his Yakuza connections. I think that he really did this to make sure that she would do whatever he wants. He wants at all costs to scare her into doing his bidding. He rapes Junko in the warehouse and again in a nearby hotel, threatening to kill her. Before I carry on, guys, this is my last warning. From here onwards, this is going to get very explicit, descriptive, with potential triggering images, photos, and words. So please, if this is not something for you, you need to leave and stop watching the video. Thank you so much. From the hotel, Hiroshi calls Nobuharu and his other friends, Joe Ogura and Yasushi Watanabe, and brags to them about the rape. Apparently, Joe asks Hiroshi to keep her in captivity in order to allow various other people to sexually assault her. The group had a history of gang rape and had recently kidnapped and raped another girl who they released afterwards. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, Hiroshi takes Junko to a nearby park where Minato, Ogura and Watanabe are waiting. They had learned her home address from a notebook in her backpack, and they told her that they knew where she lived and that Yakuza members would kill her family if she attempted to escape. The four boys overpower her, take her to a house in the Ayase district of Adachi, and gang rape her. The house owned by Nobuharu's parents soon becomes their regular gang hangout. Already missing for 2 days, on November 27th, Junko's parents, concerned for her well-being, contact the police. But to stop the police investigation, Hiroshi forces Junko to contact her parents and let them know she ran away from home, but she's safe and staying with some friends. When Nobuharu's parents were in the house, Junko was forced to act as his girlfriend. At one point, the parents suspected Junko was held captive, but they didn't intervene or contact the police because they knew of Hiroshi's connections with the Yakuza, and they were scared for their son and their own lives. Nobuharu, their son, also became increasingly violent towards them. His brother also knew what's happening, but he didn't do anything either. They all feared retaliation from the Yakuza. Junko's next 44 days were filled with unimaginable pain. 100 different men, mostly other Yakuza members, would rape Junko over 500 times. She was raped, sodomized, beaten, and starved. They amused themselves by forcing her to masturbate in front of them and inserting different objects into her genitals. And these were, again, I'm really sorry, very explicit content. These were scissors, a bottle, an iron bar, a hot exploding light bulb, grilled chicken skewers, roasting needles, and an exploding firework. She received the minimum food and water. Junko's internal organs would be subjected to so much trauma that she eventually lost control of urinary and bowel movements. When the men and boys got so disgusted to continue sexually assaulting her, the severity of the beatings increased. Among the other many sick things involved in this case, the parents of Nubaru knew about the girl being held captive in their house, as I mentioned previously. Although at first they were convinced that Junko was Nubaru's girlfriend, when Junko begged them to help her escape, they became fully aware of the horror that was taking place, but they were too afraid to do anything, and Junko's torture continued. They urinated on her, hung her from the ceiling and used her as a punching bag, crushed her stomach with dumbbells, smashed her face against the cement floor, beat her with golf clubs and iron rods, forced her to eat live cockroaches and drink her own urine, made her sleep on the balcony in the cold winter, stuck her in a freezer for hours on end, and twisted off one of her nipples with pliers. Only 1/4 through the torture, Junko could not breathe through her nose due to accumulation of blood in her cavities from so much beating. Her internal organs refused to accept food or water, so when she tried to eat or drink, she instantly vomited, causing dehydration and also the anger of her torturers, who punished her with even more beating for soiling the carpet. 20 days into her torture, Junko managed to dial an emergency number. But the boys snatched the phone from her and hung up before Junko was even able to say anything. As punishment, they poured lighter fuel on Junko's legs and feet to set them on fire, burned her eyelids with lighters and hot wax, and smashed her fingers. Severe leg burns and badly bruised muscles left Junko unable to walk after 20 days into the torture. She couldn't handle anything with her hands anymore because her bones were smashed with weights and fingernails cracked. After 30 days, Junko couldn't urinate properly due to damage to internal organs and vulva from the insertion of foreign objects and burns from cigarettes and lighters. Her hands and feet were damaged severely, and it took her over an hour to crawl downstairs to use the bathroom. Her eardrums were also damaged, and her brain size was reduced. During those 44 days of hell she suffered, Junko would repeatedly beg her kidnappers to kill her and get it done with. One day, a boy who participated in one of the raping sessions felt guilty, so he told his parents what they've done. His parents then called the police and sent them to the Minato household. When the police arrived, the Minatos acted surprised and said they had no idea what they were talking about. The Minatos even went as far as inviting them inside in a ruse to show they had nothing to hide. Foolishly, the policeman decided it must be true the Minatos were not guilty, especially if they were inviting them in. So they just left the house without even searching for Junko. Oh, some police, my god. Honestly, if those police officers went inside at that time, I seriously believe they would have saved her life. This is a huge mistake from the officer's side, which potentially cost Junko her life. If only they had gone in, they would have seen Junko's injuries. They would have noticed the state she was in. And they would have been able to take her from there. She could have been saved. Only if those police officers went in. On January the 4th, 1989, the boys challenged Junko to a game of mahjong. Even in her brutalized state, Junko beat the boys, and this sent them into a rage. They poured gasoline all over her and set her on fire again. Junko went into convulsive seizures that the boys thought she was faking. She died a few hours later. Although at that point, even if they would believe her, I don't really think they could have saved her life. I think her injuries were really too extreme for her to recover from. Less than 24 hours after her death, Nobuharu Minato's brother called to tell him that Junko appeared to be dead. Afraid of being penalized for murder, the group wrapped her body in blankets and shoved it into a travel bag. They then put her body in a 55-gallon, 208-liter drum and filled it with wet concrete. Around 8 p.m., they loaded it and eventually disposed the drum into a cement truck in Koto, Tokyo. It wasn't until about a year later that authorities located Junko. Junko's appearance was drastically altered from the brutality of the attacks. Her face was so swollen that it was difficult to make out her features. Her body was also severely crippled, giving off a rotting smell that caused the 4 boys to lose sexual interest in her. As a result, the boys kidnapped and gang-raped a 19-year-old woman who, like Junko, was on her way home from work. On January 23, 1989, Hiroshi Miyano and Joe Ogura were arrested for the gang rape of the 19-year-old woman who they had kidnapped in December. On 29th of March, 2 police officers came to interrogate them as women's underwear had been found at their addresses, and during the interrogation, one of the officers led Hiroshi Miyano into believing that police were aware of a murder committed by him. Thinking that Joe Ogura confessed to the crimes against Junko, Hiroshi told the police where to find Junko's body. The police were initially puzzled by the confession, as they had been referring to the murder of a different woman and her 7-year-old son that had occurred just 9 days prior to Junko's abduction, and that case remains unsolved to this day. The police found the drum containing Junko's body the following day. She was identified via fingerprints. On April 1, 1989, Joe Ogura was arrested for a separate sexual assault and subsequently rearrested for Junko's murder. The arrest of Yasushi Watanabe, Nobuharu Minato, and Minato's brother followed. So, it was only by chance that the police found out what happened to Junko. If Hiroshi wouldn't assume the police have evidence about Junko, they would probably never have found her. Shockingly, and rightly so shockingly, because the boys were underage by Japanese standards, Hiroshi was 18, Joe was 18, Nobuharu 16 and Watanabe 17, they were given lenient sentences. Hiroshi Miyano received a 20-year sentence, and others only 7 years for torturing a girl for 44 days. 7 years. By now, all 4 boys have been released from jail and have not proven to have turned their lives around. And rightly so, because they are not taught a lesson, because 7 years is not enough. Initially, the judges didn't disclose their names due to their age, but journalists managed to dig up their information and released it to the public, saying for what they did not deserve anyone to uphold their human rights. I completely 100% agree with that. Hiroshi Miyano, 18 years old at the time of the crime, later changed his name to Hiroshi Yokoyama. Joe Ogura, 18 years old at the time of the crime, later changed his name to Joe Kamikazu. Shinji Minato was also referred as Nobuharu Minato. He was 16-year-old at the time of the crime. Yasushi Watanabe was 17 at the time of the crime. Because forensic examiners found sperm and pubic hair of other people on Junko's body, a few more names were linked to her torture and murder: Koichi Ihara and Tetsuo Nakamura. Out of the money that was ordered to be given to the family of Junko Furuta, which I believe was around $425,000 in restorations by Mr. and Mrs. Minato, Nobuharu's parents, 0 cents actually went to the Furuta family. The Minatos ended up giving the money from selling their house to Nobuharu, Watanabe, and Joe when they were released from jail. The men use the money to party. That's a great support there, and that's exactly how they will learn their lessons, by you supporting their killing behavior even more, by giving them more money to support them when they get out. Completely rubbish. Hiroshi Miyano had still been in jail at the time, and his mother went out of her way to desecrate Junko's gravesite. With inconceivable audacity, Hiroshi Miyano's mother blamed Junko for her son being in jail. You know what? It was Hiroshi's plan and full-on intentions to do what he did, and his mother is blaming Junko and even desecrates her grave. So there was no remorse whatsoever, even from his mother? Come on! It was in effect another child, almost the same age as her own, and she had no sympathy for Junko or her family? I mean, this boy affiliated with the Yakuza decided he would take revenge and show off his manly ways of dealing with someone denying him, and his family approved of it? I mean, how twisted is it? How twisted is that whole family to approve of all the things that these boys did? Oh my god. And I'm also thinking on the other hand, what were these boys exactly expecting to achieve from this? Were they expecting to have fun with someone and torture them endlessly, and then just release her, and then they were not thinking that she might just give up, and the extent of her injuries, with the extent of her injuries, she will not be able to live any longer? Seriously, they were underage, but they were 100% aware of what they were doing, so they 100% knew that the more it goes on and on and on, the less are the chances that Junko will survive. So in a way, it makes me think that did one of them at one point got the idea stuck in his head that she had to die from torturing? I cannot understand for the life of me how can someone do this to another person. It's just beyond me. It's beyond me. And to do it for fun and for boredom and to prove yourself, and because someone said no to you, is just disgusting. It's no. Was Hiroshi's goal from the beginning to torture and kill her for revenge? Did they just have too much fun enjoying themselves and they didn't want to stop? I mean, we know that we know that they used to rob people, well, women, and gang rape women, but they let them go. So I cannot understand why exactly. What happened with Junko? Was it really just the fact that she said no and it hurt his pride, Hiroshi's pride? And all the others just joined in? Why? Because they were scared of his Yakuza ties? Or was it because they were just enjoying it as well? I cannot understand. I cannot understand. I mean, even at the point when I wrote this story, I tried to imagine the horrors Junko went through and the unimaginable pain that she felt. So much so that she actually begged them to kill her, just so everything stops already. She just couldn't take it anymore. She just wanted it over, finished, done. And so many times she desperately tried to get help, pleading with adults in the house, and they did nothing. So how did they feel? How did the Minatos feel knowing that in their own house just a 16-year-old was being tortured and beaten? How did they feel knowing that their own son helped in giving all those strikes, burns, bruises, beatings, rapes, smashing of bones, hangings from the ceiling in their own house? Junko's blood was on their carpet, her vomit was on their carpet, her hair on that cement floor, and they did nothing. And she begged. And then she got another chance to escape when the boy who felt guilty contacted the police. And this time as well, with more risk to her condition, maybe she felt hopeful. But nothing happened. And even when she reached the end of her strength, she still attempted to escape. But there was no one there to rescue her. There was no one to save this 16-year-old girl from 44 days of hell before she finally gave up. Junko Furuta's funeral was held on 2nd of April 1989. One of her friends' memorial address stated, and I quote, "Jun-chan, welcome back. I have never dreamed that we would see you again in this way. You must have been in so much pain, so much suffering. The happy, a traditional Japanese coat we all made for the school festival, looked really good on you. We will never forget you. I have heard that the headmaster has presented you with a graduation certificate. So we graduated together, all of us. Jun-chan, there is no more pain, no more suffering. Please rest in peace." End of quote. Junko's intended future employer presented her parents with a uniform she would have worn in the position she had accepted. The uniform was placed in her casket. At her graduation, Junko's school principal presented her a high school diploma, which was given to her parents. The location near where Junko's body was discovered has been developed since and is now Wakasu Park. At least 3 books have been written about the crime. An exploitation film, Concrete-encased high school girl murder case, was made about the incident by Katsuya Masumura in 1995. The song Junko Furuta by Indonesian musician Danila Riyadi is a tribute to her. Her murder was the inspiration for the film Concrete in 2004. The song 44 Days by musician Mr. Kitty is also about the incident, despite the title having the incorrect time frame of Junko's captivity, where she was really held captive for 40 days. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today's video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching. I don't have any more words. It's just horrifying, really. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and take care. And I will end this video with the